For the next few days, the University of Johannesburg and the School of Government will co-host a conference reflecting on the state of South Africa 30 years into its democracy. The event will also assess the country's democratic achievements and ongoing challenges, encouraging an inclusive discussion on the future trajectory of South Africa. The event will be held from today until tomorrow at the University of Johannesburg, and the Deputy President Paul Mashatile is expected to deliver the keynote address. To tell us more about this, we're joined by Professor Bhaso Ndzendze. He's Associate Professor of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, great to have you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Very good to be with you this morning to have this discussion about our upcoming conference.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you here with us. And the Deputy President, as we mentioned, is going to be giving the keynote address. It'll be tomorrow, reflecting on these 30 years of the country's democracy. Talk to us about this event, who you're bringing together, and sort of the themes that you're hoping that'll be drawn out of it.
Thank you very much. So the conference is over the next 2 days, and we are dealing with the theme of transformation. And so we're looking at economic transformation in South Africa. So there will be an economic conversation. We're looking at social transformation, and that will be right at the start. In fact, we're looking at how far South Africa has come in terms of social transformation. That, of course, is linked to economic transformation. And that also then speaks to the problem that South Africa faces, the intractable problem, it seems, of inequality. This is the cardinal sin, if you will, of South Africa. We also will be looking at what 30 years of democratic foreign policy looks like. How has South Africa conducted itself in the world? What values has it?
Looks like we just losing the signal there with Professor. I can see it from the corner of my eye. It still is frozen there. But this is it's a big conference that'll be brought together. And as we have said, the Deputy President will be amongst the speakers. He, of course, will be addressing this conference tomorrow, that being Friday. And he's delivering that keynote address on the second day of the conference. And as we say, the theme is looking at 30 years of democracy. I mean, this is what we've seen the entire year, and in particular, 3 decades of democracy in South Africa towards social, economic, and global transformation. So it should be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see as well some of the other speakers, and hopefully we'll be able to get the professor back up and find out a little bit more in terms of who the other speakers are that will be present and will be addressing it. So 30 years of transition. I'd love to know how everybody feels about that and the transformation that we're talking about in terms of whether it be economic, whether it be political transformation, whatever the case may be. I believe we've managed to get the professor back up, but on a telephonic line. It's always interesting to go back to basics, and it seems to work. Prof, I hope you're there.
Indeed, I'm here. Thank you very much for that quick thinking.
Good, I'm so glad. Professor, I know you were telling us about the Deputy President. You were also talking to us about the theme. While you carry on, it would be also interesting to hear the kind of other speakers that you'll have at this event.
Absolutely. So we have a very exciting speaker lineup. We have individuals from academia, of course. We've got individuals from the public service, the public sector. We have, for example, the EDGs of the Department of Public Policy Monitoring and Evaluation, the NYDA, NEDLEC, an important social partner. We've got civil society. We also have the private sector in terms of Standard Bank and a number of other role players in that space. And also we have international speakers. We have got a presence of a contingent of diplomats, international diplomats from the continent, from Asia, and from Europe.
30 years into democracy, you know, what would it take for the country to address massive challenges? And I imagine these are things that are also going to be discussed and spoken to: inequality, water, the energy crisis, all important corruption. You know, these are the things that we're plagued with. Perhaps, you know, you can talk to us about that as well.
Absolutely. So the aim of this event is to not only dwell on the problems we've faced, and we have many, is to also, yes, indeed, to platform the sort of diagnosis of what has gone wrong, but also then to look towards the next 30 years and beyond. And so our speakers, these are thought leaders, these are people who have incredible experience, both locally and internationally. And what they will be doing is seizing themselves with precisely that question as to what needs to be done to ensure that the inequality that South Africa faces, rooted in economic questions, unemployment, wealth inequality, income inequality, and so on, gender inequality. So we're looking at what sort of ideas, what sort of policy measures need to be put in place. And that's why it's important to bring together public policymakers, social activists, social actors, academia, the private sector. So this is actually one of the first sort of large events to bring together so many high-level individuals and thought leaders since the election and the formation of the cabinet. And so we are hoping that out of this will come precisely an answer to the question you've raised of exactly what needs to be done to solve our intractable problems or seemingly intractable problems.
It certainly is going to be quite interesting in terms of the backdrop of a government of national unity and what this all means. I mean, there is so much that's changed in South Africa in terms of the look of our National Assembly, of ministers, of politics. There are voices and faces that were on the sidelines that are now integral into trying to rectify a lot of the issues that we find ourselves in as a country. The talk of this new government and how it's going to function and work and some of the things that it's been formed on, I imagine this will also be quite a good platform to talk about this and see how effective it can be.
Absolutely. I think we are in uncharted territory. And so this conference will be an opportunity to see where there can be change and where there can be continuity. And quite rightly, there are now new voices, new ideas, new philosophies of government and what government should be doing to solve the challenges that beset South Africa. And so we have really a non-partisan platform. We're going to hear from voices from across the political spectrum in terms of what are the challenges and what needs to be done in order to respond to them. And one of the areas I'm actually looking forward to the most is on the question of social transformation and what ideas are being brought to bear there. But also not forgetting foreign policy, because this is one of those areas where actually the stability of the government of national unity, I think, is in the greatest jeopardy because of the very different views that are held there. But I think there's a recognition that there needs to be responsible management of the state and of policy, and there needs to be accommodation of different views. And South Africans voted for these different views, and they must find expression, therefore, in the policy program that is put forward.
Yeah, and certainly the Deputy President has got the immense role, and I do call it an immense role, of social cohesion and supporting these nation-building initiatives to bring people together and to work as a nation to try and achieve these goals. So it's a big one, and it should be very interesting for him as well to outline his and government's plans going forward, because that's, he needs buy-in in order to make this effective, because effective governance, professional public sector as well, there are lots of challenges. How do they work together to try and ensure this is a success?
Well, the Deputy President is, I think, one of the uniquely qualified people to lead that conversation, because he has been tasked, really, I think, since last year in terms of thinking around coalitions, because the governing parties, or the then singularly governing parties' own internal polling had shown that they were not going to win the election. And so very early on, there was a recognition then that there needs to be precisely this thinking about how to bring together different political parties with different views. And also that filters into society as a whole, because elections are a reflection of society. Political elections outcomes are a reflection of the diversity of the society. And so the question of social cohesion is very important in that really a country is an idea, and everyone must identify with the country. Everyone, in order for policy to succeed, in order for people to feel that their tax money, frankly, is being used optimally, that the ideas which they voted for find expression in some way, especially when the parties which they voted for are now in a government of national unity. So there needs to be, I think, that very South African characteristic of compromise and of meeting each other halfway. And I look forward to the Deputy President's speech tomorrow when he will outline really what the next 5 years and 30 years, in fact, and beyond will look like, and what's the policy program of the government of national unity. And also to task us with what needs to be done, because I think academia is a very important role player. And as I've said, there's also private sector, there's also civil society. And so we are looking forward tomorrow to, in a sense, being charged with our own mandate as to what can we do, what role can we play in our respective domains to help build a better South Africa, because I think ultimately that's what we all want.
Yeah, indeed, it is. At the end of the day, that really is it. Prof, as I sort of wrap up and let you go, because I know that you've got to be out and getting the venue ready by 10 to 8, so I've got that on my radar. But I want to end on a high note, because obviously 30 years of democracy, so much has happened. We can focus on the negative, we can, but it's important to also look at highlights and the good things that we've witnessed over the years that saw development and growth in our country. I mean, I know that the 2010 Soccer World Cup has often been used as South Africa's social cohesion yardstick. I know we've still got major issues, but perhaps maybe you want to talk to us a little bit about the highlights that we as a nation have been through.
No, absolutely. We do tend to, I think, excessively focus on the negative. Maybe that's also warranted, because we all want a better and better country. But I think there's a number of indicators that show that a lot of progress has been achieved. I mean, when we look at, for example, the number of university students in 1994, it was less than 500,000. Currently, we're looking at over 1 million. At any given year, there are 1 million young people working very hard in our universities and other institutions to better themselves and to obtain upward mobility for themselves and their families. If we look also at the social protection, the safety net that has been introduced in this country through the social income grant of various sorts, that has provided a stimulus for many families, and that is given people a safety net. It's not enough, of course, but it is something, and South Africans have used it optimally to help build better lives for themselves and their families. If we look at housing, it's not perfect, but the RDP program has been quite comprehensive and has helped house people who otherwise would not have had the means to house themselves. Of course, there are problems, there's corruption and so on, but really for those people the millions who are housed, for them, the roof over their head has come through this democracy. So there's no shortage of areas that one can point to say, you know what, the country is not perfect, but since 1994 up to now, it's 2 different countries for millions and millions, tens of millions of South Africans who now have opportunities they would not have dreamed of, who are in our institutions that they never would have even walked past, and are working and are leading in industries that access, there's opportunity, growing opportunity. And that's what I think makes South Africans so nervous and anxious, always to want to do better, because they know what progress looks like and they don't want to see reversals.
Well, good luck. I hope it goes well. Thanks for highlighting those things for us as well. Professor, I'm going to let you go. Obviously, it's an in-person and online event. Is anybody able to watch, tune in, listen, or is it obviously an invited one and for UJ students?
It is open to everyone. It is open to everyone. There will be live streaming as well.
Fantastic. Okay, good. So visit the website of the University of Johannesburg, and no doubt you'll find all of the information there with detailed speakers. And if you would like to attend or log in, you can. You're free to do so. Professor Bhaso Ndzendze, he is the Associate Professor of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg, talking to us about this upcoming conference being held at the university, reflecting on 30 years of South Africa's democracy. And it starts today, and it will carry on tomorrow as well.